The taste of truth can be sweet as honey, but to some, it is as bitter as eating mud or dirt. It can be very difficult, but in this video, I want to talk about the relationship between sexual history and marital satisfaction and where we are at currently in the modern dating world. So, buckle up. We've got a lot of statistics to go through. So I'm going to share my screen now. You can see this here. Now, this is a graph from The Atlantic, and it is demonstrating the correlation between marital satisfaction on this axis and then how many partners you've had on this axis. So one partner for men, now for those that are able to view this, the yellow line is men and the blue line is women. Men start out at about 73% for one partner, and women start out about 65% for one partner. As you can see, this gradually goes down and fluctuates, but with a steady downward trajectory for both men and women in regards to how happy their relationship is in marriage. You can see here between about 6 to 10 partners is the lowest point for women to have any kind of marital satisfaction in their marriage at about 51%. So it goes from about 65% down to about 51% for women, just based on a few different factors, including, a few different factors. How many people you slept with. And for men, it actually gets a little bit higher, around 6 to 10 partners, than it is for about 4 partners for men. But still, it's clear that marital satisfaction for men is better with fewer partners. And the same goes for women. So one thing I wanted to note here was that yes, there is still a dip in marital satisfaction after one partner for men, but it will never get as low as it does for women. Ever, actually, in as far as the average goes, but we'll come back to this in a minute. I also wanted to talk about how many marriages we've had based off of the population in the United States over the past 20 years or so. Now, this may be a little bit difficult to read, so I'm going to highlight this here at the bottom, which is 2000. In the year 2000, there were 2,315,000 marriages, and the population total was 281,421,000. And so the rates per 1,000 total population was 8.2. And, considering how many possible marriages there already are, how many children there are, how many teenagers and all that fun stuff, like 8.2%, that's an okay number, That's not bad. But then you can see here, as we grow closer and closer to our current year, 2023, in 2021, now this is from the CDC, by the way, just so anybody that wants to reference me can do so. But in 2021, there were about 400,000 less marriages, while the population has increased by 50 million over the course of those 20 years. Which means that the rate per 1,000 in total population was about 6. 6 compared to the 8.2. So we have way less people getting married, and we have far more people in our population. Where is this going? Where is this trend heading? Well, let's find out. Now, this is from the WF Lawyers and .com, and this is about divorce statistics and facts. It says here that women with 6 or more premarital sexual partners are almost 3 times less likely to be in a stable marriage. That's astounding, right? And this goes back to the current, or the original graph that we looked at here with 6 to 10 partners. So that's just, I mean, in of itself, that's astounding, right? And it's also clear that women who lose their virginity as a teenager are more than twice as likely to get divorced in the first 5 years of marriage than a woman who waited at least until she was 18 or older. In 2011, a study from the University of Iowa found that both men and women, the loss of virginity before 18, was correlated with a greater number of occurrences of divorce within the first 10 years of marriage. When compared to women who began sexual activity in their early 20s, girls who initiated sexual activity at 13 or 14, which, yikes, but they were less likely to be in stable marriages by the time they were 30 or in their 30s. And a study of stable marriage was defined as a marriage for over 5 years. So if you're married for over 5 years, that's defined as a stable marriage in this instance. Moving on. What makes people more likely to get divorced? About 48% of those that are married before the age of 18 are likely to divorce within 10 years, compared to the 25% of those that are married after the age of 25. This was something that really caught me off guard. 60% of couples married between the age of 20 to 25 will end in divorce. Holy Toledo, Batman. That's insane. That's insane. 60% of those marriages will end in divorce. Think of all the young people that are so in love and all this fun stuff, and yet they will probably end up in divorce. They're more likely to end in divorce than to stay married. That's incredible. And then those who wait to marry until they're over 25 years old are 25 or 24% less likely to get divorced. So still, they have like a 36% chance of getting divorced. And that's like if everything is going well in their stable marriage of 5+ years. So if you or your partner have been married before, you are 90% more likely to get divorced than this had been the first time for a first marriage for both of you. Yikes. So this is a message to anybody out there that has already been married or that has had like a almost marriage. Take this with a grain of salt and understand you have to, I don't want to say heal, because I think in this instance you're going to have to use logic and not feelies. Keep it real, keep the realies and ditch the feelies for this one. We're going to have to really look at why you are attracting these kinds of people into your life and why these kinds of people exist for you in the first place. And where does it come from? That's really the essence of the inner work. The inner work comes from you taking initiative on who you are in your own life and analyzing why you chose certain pathways based off of your previous experiences. That is the realies. The feelies is more like, well, I feel like I just keep attracting these kinds of people. Well, if you keep feeling that way, then you're probably going to keep doing it. Just because you feel something doesn't mean it's true, though. That's where the inner work comes into play. But I found this also pretty interesting. That if you have strong religious beliefs, the risk of divorce is 14% less than having no religious affiliation, which makes you 14% more likely to get divorced. So that's interesting as well. And the one last thing that I want to note here is why people are getting divorced in the first place. So with all of our, you're a boss babe, you're a bad bitch, you are blah 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 blah, you're a strong independent woman, you don't need no man. And then the men, we tell men like, oh, just submit, just get soft, just settle down, settle down, settle down, just settle down. Thing is, lack of commitment is the most common reason why people are getting divorced, according to this survey here. 73%. That is the highest reason of, and the percentage points in why people are getting divorced. It's lack of commitment. Now, does this mean in part infidelity? Likely. But there is the infidelity percentage here at 55%. Again, I'm not sure if you guys can read that fairly well, but I'm trying to highlight here so you guys can see and then look up for yourself later on. But these are the statistics, and it's pretty clear that people want commitment. Like, people want commitment percentage-wise. If this is going to be the top percentage reason why people are getting divorced, then like obviously people want more from each other. But the question is, are you willing to give what you need to give in order to receive that which you want to receive? Men, keep in mind that women will share parts of their body that they want to share. And by that I mean they will show what is absolutely necessary for them to what they want to give out to everybody. Take this precaution, men. Take this precaution. And take it from somebody that has made a lot of mistakes in the past where, like, coquettish women were my weakness. People that were chaotic were my weakness. In fact, it was almost like unhealthy relationships were, at one point in time, like, boring to me. Relationships were boring if they were not chaotic. And I didn't understand why. I didn't know why this was. I didn't know why I was so attracted to these chaotic women that were so highly lustful. And yet, it was what I was really, really attracted to. Well, it was because of a lot of my past relationships with family and everything like that. And I'm not saying somebody hurt me or anything. And I'm not trying to complain. I'm just saying that this is what happened. So what did I do about it? I started learning that if I'm ever going to want to be in some kind of relationship, if I want to become that person, I do, in fact, have to be the quote-unquote man. I have to be the man that I need to be in order to become what I have to become. Women, if you have a man in your life that is not direct in his intentions, leave that guy. Please leave that guy. And you know what? Those guys that are maybe, they're not, again, maybe they're boring. This is another thing I find with women that have a lot of trauma. Because I attracted a lot of the women that were traumatically, or lived in traumatic homes, like women that didn't really have good relationships with their father. Number one red flag for me. And the reason being is because usually whenever a woman has a bad relationship with her father, there's going to be a lot of trust issues to be worked through before she gets to a healthy spot. And I've seen this time and time again. And so with women that I do consultations with, I highly recommend them because I attract women and men that have had at least similar kinds of traumatic experiences as I do. I recommend highly to look at the relationships that they've had with their parents. And these numbers right here in the divorce statistics, it also talked at one point about if you had a divorced marriage, or if you lived in a divorced household, you are, what did it say? I'm looking through it now. Something like 60% more likely to be promiscuous outside of marriage, which is astounding too. Like, that's a big correlation. But again, it's not everybody, so it's 60%. That's still, it is a majority, but it isn't everybody. And also, men, like, if you also need to look at the relationships you've had with your parents. I know that a lot of the times men want to project the care or the neglect that they didn't get from their mom onto their lovers. And the thing is that as a man, that's not going to ever work. It's not going to ever work. It's just going to turn out really badly. And in fact, you're going to create a psychological battlefield in your own mind in which you don't understand why you have these kinds of desires you want from your lovers, but you still have them. But you need to become, like, it's silly to say, but men have to be everything and know everything at least as much as they can, because that's how you're going to be able to heal. You know, that's how you're going to be able to heal. Again, keep the realies, not the feelies in this case. Look at the realities. Look at your situation as it is and make calculated adjustments and strategic adjustments to ensure that you find more prosperity and more fulfillment in your life as a man, doing things, accomplishing things, achieving things, building things, just doing what needs to be done for you. This is easier said than done, of course, right? But that's the point of being a man. That's the point. And so also for women, I understand the emotional attachment to these past traumatic events are going to be a hindrance on your path. And if you're on that path of healing already, then keep looking at the realies, not the feelies. When you want healing, it's not always about making yourself feel good. Sometimes you're going to really have to feel the pain. And I know because I was there. There were times on my healing journey where I literally felt like I could not breathe and where I was just an absolute mess on the inside. Where, as out in the world, I was able to act like everything was normal, but whenever I got alone, I was in shambles. And I had to feel that pain of being in shambles, being at the bottom, in order to get to a better place. And this is just a part of what God does so well, that it's almost like the pain is really a blessing, but it's not a blessing while you're feeling the pain. You know, it's like, have you ever been like on a long run or something and your knees start to ache, like you can barely take another step, your toes hurt, maybe you have a couple blisters and everything like that. And then you still realize that you have like 5 more laps to go. Oh man, that's a horrible, horrible feeling. But then when you get done doing those 5 laps, how good do you feel? You feel pretty damn good, don't you? That's right. So just like life, ladies and gentlemen, the key message here is that, look, I'm not going to tell you who you can and cannot sleep with. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what I recommend. And I'm going to tell you that I don't recommend anybody sleep with anybody unless they're planning to be in a relationship with them long term. I don't see the point in one night stands. I don't see the point no longer in friends with benefits or situationships. In fact, anybody that has those kinds of things, I consider as red flags. If you're in a situationship where you're like casually hooking up with this guy or casually hooking up with that girl, but that's it, I see that as a red flag, unless they're some kind of concubine for a man. That's the only way that I don't see that as a red flag. So with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And I hope you all have a blessed day. Peace be with you.